The flickering emergency lights cast long, dancing shadows across the cramped bridge of the Wanderer *. Commander Rella, her usually vibrant azure skin a muted gray under the harsh glare, gripped the comm panel, knuckles white. The rhythmic thrumming of the ship's engines, usually a comforting lull, now felt like a desperate heartbeat against the encroaching silence of space. Status report. Rella's voice, usually calm and measured, cracked with an uncharacteristic urgency. The bridge crew, a mix of various dinos, worked with a frantic efficiency that belied their growing terror. They were the diplomatic corps, not warriors. Their sleek, unarmed vessel was built for negotiation, not survival against a fleet of the dreaded Cthair. Cthair. The name itself was a curse, a whisper of annihilation that had swept through countless star systems. Their advance was relentless, their cruelty legendary. And now, they were here, at the very edge of the galactic core, a place once thought inviolable. "Shields at 20%, Commander," chirped Xyle, the multi-limbed navigations officer, his usually cheerful chirps replaced by strained clicks. "We're taking continuous hits. Structural integrity failing." A violent shudder ripped through the Wanderer *, throwing several crew members against the bulkheads. Sparks showered from exposed conduits. The main viewscreen, showing only the endless, star-dusted void, flickered, then went dark. "Emergency power to life support," Rilla ordered, her gaze fixed on the blank screen. "We need a jump. Now." "No good, Commander," cried Xylos, the communications specialist, his usually booming voice reduced to a thin squeak. "Our FTL drive is cycling, but it's too slow. They'll be on us before it's ready." Rella slammed her fist against the console, a rare display of frustration. "There has to be something. We sent the SOS. Someone must have received it." Silence. Only the groaning of the Wanderer *'s hull and the distant, concussive thuds of Cthair weaponry filled the void. Desperation clawed at Rella's throat. They were peacekeepers, not soldiers. They had nothing to fight with, nowhere to run. The Cthair would offer no quarter, no mercy. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible blip appeared on Zill's auxiliary scanner. "Commander." A signature. "It's anomalous." Not Cthair. Hope, sharp and painful, pierced through Rella's despair. "Identify." Xylos, his fingers flying across his console, gasped. "It's a human vessel. They're answering the SOS." Rella felt a jolt. Humans, the galaxy's enigma. Known for their absurd resilience, their baffling recklessness, and their uncanny ability to turn any situation into a chaotic brawl. But they were also the most unpredictable, the most defiant. And right now, unpredictability was all they had left. "On screen," she demanded, a tremor in her voice. The main viewscreen flickered back to life, then resolved into a grainy image. It wasn't a sleek starship or a powerful war cruiser. It was a battered, heavily modified freighter, bristling with improvised weaponry that looked more scrap than armament. And from its bow, a message pulsed in universal code. **** you called. We answer. ****. A dark chuckle escaped Rella's lips, a sound of both relief and profound apprehension. "They shipped us a war beast," she whispered, a grim realization dawning. "They shipped us humanity." A gruff, distorted voice crackled through the Wanderer ***'s comms, pulling Rella from her momentary stupor. "This is Captain Jax. You the ones screaming bloody murder out here." Rella forced her voice to remain steady. "This is Commander Rella of the diplomatic vessel Wanderer ***. We are under attack by Cthair forces. Our shields are failing. We require immediate assistance." A rough laugh, devoid of humor, echoed back. "Assistance, huh? You got the wrong end of the stick, sweetheart. We ain't no rescue service. But we do hate Cather. So, what's your plan? Rella blinked. Plan. They had no plan beyond survival. Our FTL drive is cycling too slowly. We need a diversion, something to draw their fire. A diversion, Jax repeated, a low rumble in his voice. You want us to be bait. There was no anger, just a blunt statement of fact. It's our only chance, Rilla pleaded. If they breach our hull, there will be no survivors. A moment of static, then Jax's voice, sharp and cold. All right, but understand this, Commander. We're not dying for your pretty little ship. You got anything of value on board? Anything at all that might make this worth our while? Rella hesitated. Their vessel carried no precious cargo, only diplomatic accords and a desperate hope for peace. But then a thought struck her. We have an archive. Extensive data on galactic politics, Cather weaknesses, strategic intelligence gathered over cycles of observation. Another pause. Cather weaknesses, you say? Now that's something we can work with. Jax's tone shifted, a predatory edge entering it. All right, here's the deal. You transfer that data. All of it. And we'll give you your diversion. We'll even try to thin out their numbers for yeah. Rella felt a jolt of alarm. Handing over sensitive intelligence to an unknown human vessel felt incredibly risky, almost as dangerous as facing the Cather. But what choice did she have? The Cather were closing in, their energy weapons lashing out, each impact rattling the Wanderer to its core. Agreed, Rilla said, her voice tight. But you must understand, this data is highly classified. It must not fall into the wrong hands. Jax barked another laugh. Sweetheart, when you're fighting Cather, the wrong hands are the ones that ain't shooting at them. Prepare your data transfer, and brace yourselves. We're about to introduce these bug-faced bastards to a little bit of human ingenuity. The comms cut out. Rella turned to Xylos. Begin the transfer. Prioritize tactical data, then political intelligence. Xylos nodded, his hands already flying. Zill, still monitoring the external sensors, let out a startled chirp. Commander, the human vessel, it's turning. Directly towards the Cather lead destroyer. Rella watched, mesmerized, as the battered freighter, looking utterly insignificant against the imposing Cather warship, accelerated. It wasn't a sleek, tactical maneuver. It was a head-on charge, a desperate, defiant act of aggression that defied all logic. What in the void are they doing? Whispered Xylos, his eyes wide. The Cather destroyer, a behemoth of twisted metal and crackling energy, unleashed a volley of plasma bolts. The freighter didn't attempt to evade. It plowed straight through the fire, a shield of pure audacity protecting it. Then, from its makeshift weapon ports, a torrent of chaotic, uncoordinated fire erupted. It wasn't the precise, calculated assault of a military vessel. It was a raw, unrestrained outpouring of destruction. A spray of what looked like repurposed mining lasers, projectile cannons, and something that shimmered with an unsettling green light, all aimed at the Cather. Rella felt a chill run down her spine. These humans weren't just unpredictable. They were insane. The chaotic fury of the human freighter's attack was unlike anything Rella had ever witnessed. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't military grade, but it was undeniably effective. The Cather destroyer, caught off guard by the sheer audacity of the assault, buckled under the improvised barrage. Projectile impacts sparked across its hull, energy conduits flared, and one of its primary weapon emplacements exploded in a gout of superheated plasma. They're actually hitting them. Xylos cried, his voice a mix of disbelief and awe. And they're drawing fire. All Cather vessels are retargeting the human ship. Rella felt a surge of exhilaration. The diversion was working. The Cather, their cold, calculating efficiency momentarily disrupted, were focusing all their overwhelming firepower on the tiny, audacious freighter. How are their shields holding? Rella demanded, her eyes glued to the view screen. The hewn vessel was being pummeled, surrounded by a storm of Cthair energy fire. It should have been vaporized seconds ago. Zill's chirps were frantic. Their shields are fluctuating wildly. It's not a stable field, Commander. It's like they're rerouting power, shunting energy to different sections in real time. On the view screen, the hewn freighter executed a dizzying, unpredictable series of maneuvers. It wasn't flying so much as it was asterisk bouncing asterisk through the void, weaving, and dodging with a reckless abandon that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Each near miss sent a fresh wave of sparks across its hull, but it kept going, a furious, buzzing insect tormenting a much larger predator. Then, a new voice, laced with static, crackled over the comms. "Hey, Commander. Jack's here. You get that data moving. We ain't got all day to dance with these overgrown bugs." Rella practically lunged for the comm panel. The transfer is almost complete. Just a few more moments. She could hear the strained groan of metal in the background, the telltale hiss of breached atmospheric integrity. The humans were taking a beating, a far worse one than the asterisk Wanderer asterisk had endured. "All right. Well, speed it up," Jax retorted, a sharp cough following his words. "We're bleeding atmosphere over here. And for the love of all that's holy, tell your eggheads to include schematics of any Cthair weapon systems you got. We're going to need something to really mess these guys up." Rella's stomach churned. "Weapon schematics? We don't have." "Then you're dead," Jax snarled, cutting her off. "You want us to asterisk win asterisk this? You give us the tools. We're not miracle workers, just humans with a grudge." The comms went silent again. Rella turned to Asilos, her face pale. "Did you hear that? They want their weapon schematics. Do we have anything like that in the archives?" Xylos, still hunched over his console, looked up, his multifaceted eyes wide. "Commander, we have some theoretical reverse-engineered projections based on observed Cthair attack patterns, but they're incomplete, highly speculative." "Send them," Rella interrupted, her voice firm. "Send everything you have. Speculative or not, it's all we can offer." She watched the view screen, the image of the human freighter, battered but unbowed, still lashing out at the Cthair. They were a force of pure, destructive will, an unexpected weapon in a galaxy that had underestimated them. They were truly war beasts. Another massive shudder rocked the asterisk Wanderer asterisk. "FTL drive at 80%. Zill chirped, his voice strained. "We might make it." Rella felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by the brutal reality playing out before her. The humans were buying them time, but at what cost? And what would happen when the asterisk Wanderer asterisk jumped to safety, leaving the unpredictable war beast to face the full wrath of the Cthair alone? The consequences of this desperate gamble were already escalating. The last of the data streamed across the void, a digital lifeline thrown to the bizarre human vessel. Just as Xylos confirmed the transfer, the asterisk Wanderer asterisk's FTL drive thrummed with a rising intensity, its core glowing with a desperate, imminent jump. "Data transfer complete, Commander," Xylos announced, his voice tight with relief. Rella nodded, her gaze still fixed on the screen. The Cthair destroyer, despite the continuous, relentless assault from the human freighter, was holding. Its shields, though flickering, had not entirely collapsed. But the human vessel, it was a wreck. Multiple hull breaches were visible, atmospheric venting in plumes of frozen vapor. Yet it continued its insane dance, firing everything it had, a defiant middle finger to the Cthair war machine. "Jump coordinates locked," Zol chirped, his voice barely audible over the rising whine of the FTL drive. "Engaging in 5, 4. A fresh volley of Cthair plasma slammed into the human freighter. A section of its stern disintegrated, revealing twisted metal and sparking conduits. Rella gasped. No one could survive that. They had given the Wanderer the precious seconds it needed, but at what cost? 3, 2. Then, a new, chilling sound ripped across the comms, originating from the human freighter itself. It wasn't Jax's gruff voice, nor the whine of weapons fire. It was a guttural, primal scream, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. It was quickly followed by a series of explosive thuds, internal to the human ship, and then a desperate, pained cough from Jax. You just sent us. Those schematics. Jax roared, his voice thick with a mixture of pain and disbelief. What in the hell are you thinking? Rella stared at the comm panel, bewildered. What's wrong? We sent you everything we had, based on your request for weapon schematics. Wrong? Jax shrieked, a metallic clang echoing in the background. You sent us Cthulhu nerve gas schematics and biotoxin formulations. What in the blazes do you think we're going to do with this? Start a goddamn plague. Rella felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. No. Those were theoretical, reverse-engineered projections based on intercepted Cthulhu bioweapon tests. They were never meant for practical application. They're highly unstable. Unstable? Jax coughed again, the sound wet and ragged. Tell that to poor Miko. He just started glowing, and bleeding from his tear ducts. You gave us a biological war crime, Commander. Not a damn weapon. On the view screen, the battered human freighter, instead of collapsing, pulsed with an eerie green light. The chaotic bursts of fire from its weapon ports intensified, but now, mixed with the usual energy blasts, were strange, shimmering projectiles that seemed to dissolve the very hull of the Cthulhu destroyer on impact. The Cthulhu vessel, previously invulnerable, began to show signs of rapid, accelerated decay. Sections of its armor sloughed off, leaving gaping, festering wounds. Rella watched in horror. The war beast they had summoned was now unleashing something far more terrifying than she could have imagined. They had delivered a plague, not a weapon, and the humans, in their desperate and reckless ingenuity, were now wielding it. 1. Engaging FTL. Xyle yelled, his voice barely heard over the rising crescendo. The stars outside the Wanderer view screen elongated into streaks of light, then snapped into the familiar distortion of a hyperspace jump. The last thing Rella saw before the Wanderer was swallowed by the void was the Cthulhu destroyer, its mighty form dissolving from within, and the tiny, defiant human freighter glowing with an unnatural, sickly green light, a living, dying abomination unleashing cosmic horror upon its enemies. They had escaped, but the price and the consequences were now horrifyingly clear. The silence of hyperspace was a stark contrast to the chaotic battlefield Rella had just fled. The Wanderer hummed with a renewed, albeit fragile, sense of safety. Yet, the images burned in her mind. The dissolving Cthulhu destroyer, the sickly green glow of the human freighter, and Jax's horrified, pained voice. Rella stalked the bridge, her every step echoing in the suddenly too large space. Her crew, though relieved, were subdued, their faces etched with the lingering terror of their close call, and the unsettling specter of what they had witnessed. Report on the data transfer, Rella commanded, her voice flat. She didn't look at Thylos, her gaze fixed on the blank main view screen, as if the horrors of the void might still be playing out there. Xylos, hunched over his console, swallowed hard. Commander, the transfer was complete. All archived data, including the theoretical Cthulhu bioweapon schematics, was sent. Theoretical, Rella repeated, the word a bitter taste on her tongue. Highly unstable. Never meant for practical application. Yes, Commander, Xylos confirmed, his voice barely a whisper. based on intercepted Kithair research logs. We had no idea they could be actualized. But they were, Rella countered, finally turning to face him, her eyes wide with a chilling realization. And the humans, they used them. They deployed a biological agent in a desperate attempt to survive. Zal chirped nervously. Commander, the Kithair destroyer. Its destruction was complete. Rapid, internal decay. No remnants. It was terrifyingly efficient. Rella closed her eyes, a shiver running through her. The humans, with their baffling blend of recklessness and ingenuity, had taken theoretical knowledge of a Kithair bioweapon, and, under extreme duress, had somehow made it reality. And they had unleashed it. And Captain Jax? Rilla asked, her voice barely audible. Did you get any read on his condition after his last transmission? Xylos shook his head, his multifaceted eyes filled with regret. No, Commander. Comms were lost immediately after the FTL jump. Their energy signature vanished from our sensors. We have no way of knowing their fate. Rella's jaw tightened. They had left the humans to their fate. A fate they had, in part, helped to seal. The moral weight of that decision pressed down on her. They had been faced with annihilation, and in their desperation, they had provided the tools for a monstrous, unforeseen retaliation. We need to report this, Rella stated, her voice regaining a sliver of its usual command. To the Council. Immediately, the Kithair were attacked with their own bioweapons. By humans. This could have galactic implications. Zyle let out a high-pitched whine. The Council will be displeased, Commander. Bioweaponry is universally condemned. I'm aware, Zil, Rella snapped, then softened her tone. But they need to know. The unpredictable nature of humanity has been revealed in the most brutal way possible. They are not merely strong or defiant. They are capable of adapting to and utilizing the most horrifying tools, even those they are unfamiliar with. She walked to the large navigation console, her gaze fixed on the endless stream of stars flowing past the viewports. They had escaped the Kithair, but they had unleashed something far more volatile into the galaxy. The galaxy's peacekeepers had just delivered a plague, and the consequences were yet to be fully understood. The war with the Kithair was far from over. It had merely entered a new, terrifying phase, one where humanity's war-beast nature had been fully unleashed. Years later, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with a tension thicker than nebula dust. Rella, now a grizzled veteran of countless diplomatic skirmishes, stood before the assembly. Her azure skin was still vibrant, but lines of worry etched around her eyes. The Kithair War had escalated beyond anything the galaxy had ever known. The Kithair, once a unified, merciless force, were now fractured, their fleets decimated not just by conventional warfare, but by something far more insidious. Commander Rella, you stand accused of egregious violations of galactic law, boomed the lead counselor, a towering, reptilian Kivash with eyes like molten gold. Your vessel, the Wanderer facilitated the transfer of highly prohibited biological weapon schematics to an unsanctioned human vessel. The ensuing devastation has been catastrophic. Rella met the Kivash's gaze, unflinching. We faced annihilation, Council. The Kithair fleet was moments from destroying us. The humans offered a chance, a desperate one. We gave them what they asked for, what we possessed, in exchange for our lives. Another counselor, a shimmering, ethereal being of pure energy, pulsed with indignation. And in doing so, you unleashed a terror. The humans, with their barbaric methods, weaponized a plague. Entire Kithair worlds have been rendered uninhabitable. Their populations decimated not by battle, but by disease. And at worked Rilla stated, her voice resonating with a quiet intensity. The Kithair invasion has halted. Their fleets are in disarray, preoccupied with containing their own biological catastrophes. Their military might, once seemingly infinite, is now crumbling from within. A ripple of murmuring spread through the chamber. No one could deny the truth of her words. The Kether, once a unified terror, were now a broken empire, consumed by a self-inflicted wound. And the humans? The Kavash counselor pressed, his voice laced with suspicion. What of the vessel that delivered this cure asterisk? Rella paused, a faint, grim smile touching her lips. The wanderer observed the Kether destroyer's destruction. The human vessel, the ironclad vanished from our sensors shortly after. We presumed them lost, destroyed by their own reckless actions. She paused for dramatic effect, letting the weight of her words settle. However, intelligence from the liberated Kether systems tells a different story. Small, heavily armed human vessels have been sighted. Not just the ironclad but others like it. They are targeting Kether strongholds, not with conventional weapons, but with precise, contained biological releases. They are specialists now. Bioterrorists, perhaps. Or, as some Kether survivors whisper, they are simply the cure. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of panicked voices. The Kether, the galaxy's ultimate threat, were being dismantled by a force no one had understood. Humanity, the unpredictable variable, had become a galactic scalpel, excising a cancerous threat with horrific precision. The galaxy had cried for help, and they had received a war beast, one that had carved its own path to victory. The council chambers were chaos. Species known for their stoicism gesticulated wildly. Holographic displays flickered with grim data. Kether planetary populations collapsing, their military logistics crippled by an enemy that fought with unseen poisons. Rilla stood at the center of the storm, a calm eye in the hurricane. This is an abomination, shrieked a diminutive, multi-eyed delegate from the Asilar Collective, scurrying across the floor. The use of biological weapons is a universal crime. A crime that saved us, Rella countered, her voice cutting through the din. The Kether employed such weapons in their research. We merely provided humanity with the knowledge of how. What they chose to do with it, under duress, is a testament to their adaptability. Adaptability? Or depravity? Snarled a gruff, heavily armored Gorokian ambassador, slamming a fist on his console. They have become worse than the Kether. They are a plague themselves. Rella felt a flicker of something akin to pride, quickly suppressed by the chilling reality of the situation. No, Ambassador. They are the answer to a plague. The Kether would have consumed us all. Humanity, in its desperation, shows a path we would never have dared. A path that, however horrific, has guaranteed our continued existence. A new projection materialized, a live feed from a newly liberated Kether world. It showed a desolate landscape, once teeming with Kether life, now silent and still. Then, a single, battered human freighter descended through the atmosphere, landing precisely in what had once been a fortified Kether military compound. Small, armored figures emerged, moving with a grim, practiced efficiency. They wore no military insignia, only crude, hand-painted symbols. They weren't conquering. They were cleansing. One of the figures, larger than the rest, raised a device that emitted a burst of green light, scanning the area. A familiar voice, rough and static-laced, suddenly filled the council chambers. Commander Rella, you there? Hope you're enjoying the show. It was Jax, alive, and he sounded, ***. The counselors collectively gasped. Rilla stared at the projection, a knot forming in her stomach. Captain Jax, you survived. But how? Jax chuckled. A dry, rattling sound. Survived? Barely. Your theoretical schematics were a real trip, Commander. Turned Mako inside out for a bit, but we figured out how to stabilize it. Turns out, a little Kether nerve agent, properly calibrated, is a real good way to clear out a nest of bugs. And that biotoxin. Turns out, when you tweak the genetic markers, it's a universal solvent for Kyther biological structures. Pretty neat, huh? Rella felt a cold sweat trickle down her spine. They hadn't just survived. They had mastered the very horror she had inadvertently given them. But the side effects, Captain, the glowing, the bleeding, Rilla pressed, desperation creeping into her voice. Jax laughed again, louder this time, devoid of its previous pain. Oh, those. That's just the fun part of human experimentation, Commander. We call it adaptive evolution. You gotta break a few eggs to make an omelette, right? Especially when the omelette is an entire species of genocidal bastards. Anyway, thanks for the intel. You gave us the perfect weapon. Now, if you'll excuse us, we've got more exterminating to do. This galaxy ain't gonna take care itself. The feed cut out. The image of the human figures, stoic and efficient in their grim work, remained burned into the Council's collective consciousness. Humanity had embraced the darkness, had become the monster needed to defeat a greater one. The galaxy was safe, but at what cost to its soul? The silence in the Council chambers was heavier than any spoken condemnation. The live feed of Jax, his casual explanation of bioweapon manipulation, had stripped away any remaining illusions. Humanity wasn't just a wild card. They were a force that twisted destruction into creation, and morality into a weapon. The Kavash counselor, his golden eyes wide with a newfound horror, finally spoke. They are not just using it. They are adapting it, improving upon Kyther bioweaponry. His voice was a low rumble of disbelief. Indeed, Counselor, Rella confirmed, her own voice strangely calm. They have turned the Kyther's greatest fear, their own research, against them. And they have done so with a speed and efficiency that beggars belief. The ethereal being pulsed with a frantic, agitated rhythm. This changes everything. They are a threat. What if they turn this adaptive evolution on us? Once the Kyther are gone, who will be their next target? Rella looked at the terrified faces of the counselors. They had wanted the Kyther gone. They had cried for a miracle. And humanity, in its raw, unfiltered brutality, had delivered. They saved us, Rella stated, her voice unwavering. They are the ones who risked everything, who embraced the monstrous, to protect us from a greater monster. To call them a threat, after they have eradicated the Kyther blight, is to ignore the very nature of their sacrifice. Sacrifice. The Gorokian ambassador scoffed. They enjoy this. They revel in the chaos and destruction they unleash. Perhaps they do, Rella conceded, a hint of weariness in her voice. Perhaps their unique psychology allows them to confront such horrors without breaking. Or perhaps, Ambassador, they simply do what is necessary. They are not like us. They do not operate on our rules, our ethics, or our taboos. They are humanity. And we, the galactic community, sent an SOS to Deathworlders. We shipped us a war beast, and that war beast, as you have witnessed, has changed the very landscape of galactic warfare. The Kavash counselor slowly sat back, his gaze fixed on the empty screen where Jax's face had been. So, the Kyther are gone. What now, Commander Rella? What becomes of the galaxy, now that humanity has shown its true nature? Rella looked around the silent chamber, at the fearful, awe-struck faces of the assembled delegates. Now, she said, her voice echoing in the sudden quiet, we live. We rebuild. And we understand that the future of this galaxy was forged not by our diplomacy, but by the reckless, terrifying, and utterly indomitable will of humanity. We cried out in desperation, and they answered with an apocalypse for our enemies. The galaxy is safe, but it will never be the same. The irony was not lost on her. They had sought salvation, and they had received a force of nature. A primal scream in the void that had annihilated their enemy but left them with a profound, terrifying respect for the species they had so casually dismissed. The war was over, but the age of humanity had just begun. The silence that followed Jax's transmission was deafening, more impactful than any explosion. The Galactic Council, usually a beacon of reasoned debate, was paralyzed by a chilling mix of relief and profound dread. The Kithur threat was effectively neutralized, but at what cost to the galaxy's moral compass? They have become a necessary evil, the Kivash counselor finally stated, his voice a low, gravelly rumble, betraying a conflict within his own ancient being. They embraced the tools of their enemy and turned them back with a ferocity that chills even the most hardened warrior. Rella felt a grim satisfaction. Her actions, born of desperation, had been vindicated, yet the weight of the consequences was immense. The Wanderer had sought to preserve peace through diplomacy. Instead, it had inadvertently unleashed a new, unpredictable force of nature. And what do we do now? Asked the Exiler delegate, his multiple eyes darting nervously. Do we condemn them? Do we try to control them? Rella shook her head. Controlled humanity. That would be like trying to bottle a supernova. Their strength lies in their defiance, their chaotic ingenuity. They do not conform to our rules, our protocols. They'd break them, reshape them, and often, in doing so, achieve the impossible. The Kithur Empire, once a monolithic threat, was now little more than a collection of quarantined, dying worlds. The war beast the galaxy had inadvertently summoned had not just defeated them. It had erased them, leaving behind a sterile, silent void. The Galactic Order. It has changed. The shimmering, ethereal counselor pulsed, its form wavering slightly. The balance of power has shifted irrevocably. The Kithur are gone, but humanity, they remain. An unpredictable, dangerous, yet undeniably effective force.